Hello and welcome. This outcome is about matching the function with its graph, and the focus here should be on the square root function. The student will match a given square root function with its correct graph. So I have 4 graphs here, graph 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to match them with their symbolic form of those functions, and I have y on one side instead of f of x or g of x, but you know it's the same. And by looking at those graphs, hopefully you can tell their functions because they pass the vertical line test. So this y is a function. So if we look at the first graph and we wanted to match it with a symbolic form, I'm looking at x squared minus 3. That doesn't look like the graph would be a V-shaped. However, if I go to y equals the absolute value of x minus 2, I know that the absolute value looks like a V-shaped graph, and I can even plug in values. So here, if I plug in 2 where the vertex, if we call it the vertex, is, then we get a 0. So that kind of matches, and you could go that this way. But anyway, it's really obvious to just look at the graph and know it's an absolute value function, and that's the only absolute value function. So I would match graph number 1 with B. Graph number 2, if you know how this shape looks like and compare with the symbolic forms, I know it's not a quadratic function. The top one is a quadratic function. The next one is an absolute value function. The third one is 1 over x, which is a rational function. And the bottom one is square root of x plus 2, and that's a square root function. And obviously looks like it's a square root function. And if you could start at -2, where the domain is -2 to infinity, if you find the domain of this function, you can find that at -2 it's a 0, and continue with the same fashion. So graph number 2 maps with the symbolic form y equals square root of x plus 2. And the third one, it looks like it's a parabola. And so actually, this should go all the way, all of them, they continue in this fashion. Same thing here. So this looks like it's a quadratic function, so I would map it with the first one. So that would be graph number 3. And then graph number 4 looks like what's left is a rational function. So that would be graph number 4. You could say that x can't be 0. So this is what we call the asymptote for that function. And the asymptote is actually the y-axis where the x values can touch. But also because the top number is a 1, then that constant can never be 0. So you could see that the x-axis is also an asymptote. That would be another asymptote where the graph does not touch that x-axis as well. So hopefully, and I think the names are important. So this is a quadratic function that you will become familiar with. This is an absolute value function. This is a rational function because it's fractional. And this is a square root function. And I'm sure there are more graphs and symbolic forms of other kinds of functions that you need to be familiar with, but it's really important to know how to match, how the graph looks like for all of these kinds of functions. See you next time.